welcome to today's edition of Pegasus Test. On today's edition, we're covering the shoot house stage of Tiger Valley's two-man match of 2019. Alright, first off, let me state, I've got no video of this stage. And this time it wasn't because of camera gremlins, it was by stage design. The shoot house was just that, it was a shoot house and it was a closed shoot house. And they wanted to keep the layout as a blind stage. Or at least that's what I think the intent was. It didn't really get a stage briefing on this stage. So the team that was normally following us and getting us the handheld footage didn't happen. I have no I have no aim cam or no GoPro footage because of this. This is the protective mask you had to wear. And this precluded the cameras being used. One, when it's against your face, the aim cam glasses don't work, and two, when it's on the helmet that I was wearing that was my GoPro mount, was not compatible. Now, to be fair, this was necessary safety equipment, and losing camera footage is a small price to pay for necessary safety equipment. And if I'd have brought a ton of other GoPro mounts with me, I'd probably have one or two that could have clipped on to the top of this, for example, that would have worked just adequately, and we could have got some footage. But I didn't have any idea this stage was going to be there, so I didn't bring any extraneous GoPro mounts I didn't anticipate using. But that's on me, and it's no big deal. Here's where I have some problems with this stage. There was no briefing. Yep, zero, none. As I mentioned in the previous video, we showed up at the shoot house stage, two competitors there, and they mentioned something about having to change the bolts in our rifles so that they'll be compatible with the marker rounds. Just after we get explained, a few more competitors show up, and an RO pulls us over to the paintball stage to shoot that. And you can check out our video from yesterday about that stage if you're interested. So we finished up paintball and we came back to shoot house. Well, by this time, a lot of people have shown up, and they're from all three squads. There is no squad integrity. It's just kind of get up to this table, fill out a scorecard, put it down. There's sort of a firing order, but no, not really. There's just a couple piles of scorecards there, and as the RO comes out, he picks one up and says, hey, it's your turn. And a lot of times he picked the people who had grabbed the next set of bolts and put them in their rifles. And I'm going to digress a minute. That's one of the other problems with this stage. Is that it was a planning issue on Tiger Valley's part, and honestly, to be fair to Tiger Valley, it's one you could easily overlook. They had two bolts, and they had a loaner rifle, which had to have one of the bolts if necessary, because not everybody brought an AR, and if you came up, you didn't have an AR, you could put your rifle down and use the loaner rifle. And that worked great till the team showed up that had a G3 and an AK, or I think it was actually Galil Ace. But neither of them had an AR. And one of the competitors actually had to borrow an AR from another competitor. Now, the great community that the shooting community is, you know, more than enough people volunteered a rifle for them to use, so it didn't be an issue. But it shows a lack of planning or some faulty assumptions. So basically, I noticed other people that would ask the RO questions about the stage, or when we asked questions, the answer was always the same. You got to go in and find out. So there's no idea the number of targets, there's no idea the number of the rooms, there's no idea if there's no-shoot targets, there's no rules of engagement really. The only thing you know is you've changed the bolt in your rifle, you had to have 2 magazines, and 3 rounds in one and 4 in another. It's a total of 7 rounds for you and your teammate, so you each had 7. So you didn't know if you could double tap, you didn't know if there were 14 targets in there or only 7, you didn't know anything. The only heads up we got, because I think everybody was trying to keep in the spirit of the stage, nobody really came out and said much. The only heads up we got to, there's an idea of no shoots in there, is a couple teams before we went, as soon as the door opened, they engaged a target, and one of the people behind us said, oh, he just engaged a no shoot. Like, oh, okay, so now we know there's no shoots in there. All right. When it was my team's turn to go, we asked our questions, got told you got to go in to find out, and we went tearing in. Went into the first room, there was the no-shoot, we went into the room, and here's where we take our first penalty, there's a target we didn't engage. We didn't see it. They said it was supposed to represent a bathroom stall. Well, okay, yes, if you use your imagination, but the target was pasted towards the wall. So by going into the middle of the room like I did, it wasn't visible. You had to be straight on into the stall to see it. But it's the way this thing was set up. Had the target been 3D, I think I would have seen it and engaged, but that's a thing in the match. I'm not going to get too wrapped around the axle about that one. So we come out of that room, go down the hallway, go into the next room. My teammate takes out the one target there, and then we come into a great room that's set up like an office, and I find one target, I guess supposed to be simulated, hiding behind a desk, and he takes care of another target, and then the RO says, "You're done, get back to the starting point for time." That's what we heard. So we hauled ass out of there and got back to the starting point. This time other ROs have joined, and they said, "Okay, let's go do your debrief." Went in, you had 3 failures to neutralize. I'm like, huh? What? No, we didn't. And they said, "We'll show you." So they showed the first one I just mentioned that was supposed to be on the bathroom stall. Okay, that was legit. We flat out missed it. Like I said, had it been a 3D target or a person actually sitting on a stall, yes, we probably would have gotten that. But it is what it is. No big deal. And then they take us back to the place where they said, you know, if you're done, go back to the start. Okay? And then they open a door. And they take us in the room, and there were 2 more targets. And I challenged the RO on this and said, "You said we're done, get back." And he said, "No, I said if." And I started the challenge again, but I could tell by the attitude of 2 of the ROs that that challenge was going to go nowhere, so I just stormed out of the house in a temper tantrum. Yes, I threw a temper tantrum. I didn't yell or scream at anybody, I just stormed away because I didn't want to argue about it. But this is why I'm calling BS on this stage. I've been to a lot of matches. Only when you're at your limiter advance does the RO ever say, "If you're done, unload and show clear." Okay? We went through 2 rooms. The RO didn't say a word. The 3rd room, he says, "You're done, get back to the thing." Now the RO said he said if. We didn't hear that. Either way, why would you make that statement if there was an entire another room, if there were other targets still out there unengaged and we hadn't reached the limit of advance? So I think that was an incredibly bad call with the RO, but his partner was all too gleeful, enjoying himself pointing out the missed targets. So as I'm saying, I think challenging it at that point was pointless. So we went out. So we had a great time. That was marred by 3 penalties, 2 of which were completely unnecessary. Also, I'm going to go ahead and say the lack of stage briefing was critical here. This caused a lot of frustrations with a lot of other competitors that I talked to. Later that day, the next day, when we're waiting for the scores when the match is over, there was a lot of guys that were upset about the fact there was no briefing. Go in there and find out is not a stage briefing. This is supposed to be a house clearing exercise. No SWAT team in the world is going into a room, even if there's an active shooter, without having some concept of what's in there. I'm not given an idea that I'm not told there's an active shooter. I'm not told there are possible friendlies. I'm not told estimated number of bad guys. Not told anything about what's inside the building. That's not how you do CQB. Yes, in extremis, yes you do. And I guarantee guys going through a village in Iraq or guys going through a village in Afghanistan, you know, won't know about the building they're taking fire from. But they know they're taking fire from it, you know, and they're going to know if they expect that there will be friendlies in the air or something because they've gotten something from their S2 section. No, we were just told nothing, just whatever, go in and find it out. You got limited rounds, yeah, go in. And you know, I get the purpose of the stage, and I get the purpose behind keeping it blind, but giving some type of briefing to a scenario is not detrimental to keeping the stage blind. That was basically poking the eyes out, and I really think that this stage was poorly executed, the worst executed stage at this match. So I've just ripped this stage pretty hard, and I'm calling it the way I saw it. I have no video to back up anything here, as I mentioned earlier, because people couldn't follow us in, and that makes sense. That's a perfect safety precaution. And the safety mask precluded me using the camera systems that I brought with me, which again, that's no gig against them. When anybody's designing a stage, they're not worried about a competitor's GoPro or aim cams or whatever, and I totally understand that. But Stage briefings are necessary. Yes, you can keep the number of targets in there somewhat vague. You know, you can say there are multiple adversaries. You can say there are friendlies in there. You can say you have 4 rooms. You can give some kind of indication, you know. And I'm sorry, the RO should not be saying, even if he said if you're done in the middle of the stage. He doesn't say it at the beginning. He doesn't say it after every target's engaged. So we engage in a target and you hear an RO to say that and you believed you've engaged everything, not that you could really know, and then you do, that's a gig on the RO. That's not a gig on the shooter. And yeah, you can tell I'm still kind of hot about this, but it is what it is. We're hoping you're finding our coverage of the Tiger Valley 2-man match of 2019 helpful and informative. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and tune in tomorrow as we do a Helo Assault.